totals are coming in for a bunch of different devices, including the Palm Pre. Are sales actually up to par, or is Palm getting left behind? We bring in a couple technology experts to talk about it, Rob Enderle from the Enderle Group, and Iyaz Akhtar, our managing editor.
Try GoToMeeting free for 30 days. Visit gotomeeting.com/techpodcasts.
Back in June, the Palm Pre launched to much fanfare. Last year at CES, almost a year ago, everyone expected Palm to essentially be dead. When they showed off the Palm Pre, people thought, maybe Palm has a shot. Now, with Android sort of taking all of the air in the room, as it were, the Palm Pre is kind of relegated to a background position. Now, Rob, we heard that they sold about 672,000 units in the last quarter, and that's, people say it's a little bit of a surprise on the good side, a little bit of an upside shocker. What's your take on Palm currently and how they lay in the market?
Well, there was a lot of expectations that the Palm Pre was going to be the one that was going to slap Apple and do incredibly well, and incredibly well would have been in the millions. And then expectations shifted to where that people weren't convinced that Palm was going to sell any of the phones, and as it turned out, Palm actually sold quite a few, nowhere near Apple levels, but certainly a lot better than nothing. So the market's coming back around to the idea that this may be a player, but probably not with this generation. We're probably waiting for the next generation of device, and perhaps a rumored merger to put them back into the center and make them relevant again.
Interesting stuff. Now, we're actually we have all of the major handsets among the people on the show today. I'm actually rocking a Palm Pre, I've had for a little while, and Iyaz, you're an iPhone user. When you look at Palm, how do you sort of see them stacking up among the the big group of devices?
Well, I mean, they used to have a really nice lead in the old days, but one of the problems they're having right now is, well, just applications. They don't seem to have as many incentives like the Android program has. I know that Google gave away like $10,000 or something like that to the winner of their Android development contests. I mean, that's what's killing this OS right now. They really need to have more apps, maybe even more phones, because that's one of the things about Android. There's lots of different phones out there, so there's 100,000 apps already. Yeah. I mean, 10,000 apps.
And there's lots of different places to pick it up. I mean, you can get it from Verizon, you can get it from Sprint. Rob, is that really the key for Palm here to unlock success, is getting it outside of Sprint and more devices, or do you think the applications are the primary thing? What's sort of the key to making things different and better?
Well, they've had a number of problems. I think first and foremost was the tie to Sprint. AT&T's bad. Sprint is worse. Sprint has the lowest customer satisfaction of any of the carriers in the United States. And if you're going to try to run up against Apple, who has a bad carrier as well, you don't want one that's worse. Verizon's better, and that's part of the reason that Android's doing better, is Verizon in its class is the best. The funny thing, the highest satisfaction is actually carried by T-Mobile, but they have nowhere near the coverage of AT&T and Verizon, and so they're often devalued. But of course, ironically, it's a T-Mobile. Microsoft phone is the phone that I carry. Yeah. So I think their problems have come down to three areas. You mentioned applications. The other one was the use of Sprint, the least popular. And the third I would point to is probably the way they brought the phone to market and the marketing. They've done an awful lot of very high concept promotions, burned an awful lot of money, and advertising that really doesn't introduce the phone. Very much like the old Infinity ads, where you kind of step back and say, I mean, what are they really marketing? Is it a logo, and what does it apply to? If you look at the iPhone ads and the Droid ads, they're right solidly on message and make you want to use the device. The Palm Pre commercials are high profile, high concept, and you sit back and you go, I mean, what is it? And that's a problem.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it looks like a phone, but there's the creepy lady sort of advertising it to you. There's a lot of other feelings. Maybe that introduction really isn't it. Now, one of the other things we want to talk about today is Microsoft. Now, there's an analyst. There's a lot of people who are essentially saying at this point, Microsoft has a lot of the same problems as Palm. I guess there are different problems of sorts. Palm has come out with the new Pre, which people think is actually attractive, but Windows Mobile is sort of languishing, and HTC is still supporting it. They're still putting out handsets, but at the same time, it doesn't have any sort of mind share, especially when compared to the likes of the iPhone, Android, and even the Palm Pre to some extent. Now, when you look at Windows Mobile, I mean, they have a ton of apps. It's not necessarily a lack of apps that's a problem. What does Microsoft need to do, in your view, to sort of get things on the right track, or should they just throw in the towel?
I think they shouldn't throw in the towel, first of all. I think what their situation is, they're focused right now on Windows 7. They're just trying to deal with Vista and that whole mess, trying to sweep that under the rug. They have to fix Windows as the brand. They're doing that now with all these ads right now. And they've shown time and again, when they really want to take care of a market like the search engine, and they throw enough money at it, they actually do a decent job at these things. It's just, I guess they have to throw money at this problem.
Once
Simple as
again,
that.
trying to fix a problem by throwing money at it. I guess that's Microsoft's sort of MO. I mean, Rob, offhand, you're a Windows Mobile user. What's sort of the big problems with the platform in your opinion right now, and how does Microsoft need to really, get back in the game?
Well, it's funny, if you look at the current Consumer Reports, the top Microsoft phone is the HTC Touch 2, and it's only 3 points behind the iPhone, which leads the category and actually matches the older model iPhone, the old 3G iPhone, and leads most of the others that were surveyed. But Microsoft isn't marketing their advantages, and you get so lost in the number of phones that are out there that use the platforms, many of them marginal, that it marginalizes the product. They actually got a better phone that isn't offered here, also by HTC, that offers multi-touch that everybody's raved about, but we don't get it here, so it doesn't do them any good whatsoever. Yeah. And they drop on a number of carriers, so you can kind of have the carrier that you want, much broader coverage than any of the other two guys, but one, they don't tell you what their advantages are, and then number two, they've clearly fallen behind in user interface, though folks like HTC have had no problem at all updating the user interface with something that's much more compelling, and that's why their phones seem to do a lot better. Yeah. So Microsoft's kind of lost. My view is that they just don't resource this enough. Yeah. The mobile group has always been under-resourced. They don't have the marketing backing that they need. I mean, this is a platform effort in line with Windows, and yet they resource it to something that's a small fraction of that, and then they stand back and go, "Gee, I wonder why we don't do better." Well, I mean, you either do something or don't do it, and Microsoft seems to be trying hard, but they're just not resourcing it enough to get it done, and I think that's what's really hurting them.
It'll be interesting to see how Microsoft, I mean, they haven't really had a real, a huge response to even the iPhone, which has been around for almost 3 years now, and, Windows Mobile essentially is kind of stalled a little bit. It's, we're seeing 6.5, 7 is allegedly, Windows Phone 7 or whatever they're going to call it now, is on the horizon, but regardless, we're still waiting on a real response. I mean, my take here is Microsoft just needs to figure out, the user interface needs to get fixed so that HTC doesn't have to fix it for them, and just create something that is an alternative to Android that has some sort of appeal for phone manufacturers and for users for that matter. Anyway, I know that's the easiest fix ever, right? Just fix everything and you'll be all right. Yeah. So make it happen.
Anyway,
right. Guys, we're going to leave it there. Rob Enderle from the Enderle Group, thanks for coming on the program. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Also, Iyaz Akhtar, who's the managing editor here at our site, TechFeed. Thanks for coming on the show as well.
No problem.
I'm Randall Bennett, and don't forget, you can catch us on iTunes, we're on YouTube, and maybe try to download a podcast application. You can catch us on Windows Mobile, Palm Pre, iPhone. I don't know. Let us know how that works out for you. See ya.
This show brought to you by GoDaddy.com. Use promo code TVI7 and get any .com domain name for $7.49.